Welcome everyone. We would like to present the results of the research, Global Migration Processes, Analysis and Modeling of Migration Attractiveness of Countries through Fuzzy Logic. The authors formed an international team, namely Hanna, Danylchuk, Liubov, Kibalnyk, the Bogdan Khmelnytsky National University of Cherkasy, Ukraine, Oksana, Kovtun, State Institution of Higher Education, University of Educational Management, Ukraine, Oleg, Pursky, Kyiv National University of Trade and Economics, Ukraine, and Zenon, Stachowiak, Cardinal Stefan Wyszyński University, Republic of Poland. Since the 19th century, international labor migration has been the subject of scientific research in various fields. Today, migration is characterized by the permanence of territorial flows and the diversity of expression forms. Changes in migration flows are mainly reflected in population growth, territorial movements, and the emergence of new types of migration movements. Migration processes have the decisive impact on the socio-economic development of countries and regions as a whole. It should be noted, however, that the scale of international migration in recent decades has never been greater in the history of human development. In our view, international migration should be seen as a widespread socio-economic process with many causes and consequences, playing a significant role in the economic, inter-ethnic, and demographic changes in the development of communities and society as a whole. It have a projection in the social, political, and cultural life. Consequently, the impact of migration processes on the social and economic development of certain region countries and their association is beyond doubt, and scientists and public administrators need to have tools which would make it possible to develop effective employment policies, to identify possible losses, imbalances, and profits for the state form migration flows, to form social packages of support for forced migrants, to improve migration policies. In view of the above, the issues of modeling and forecasting migration flows in the face of globalization challenges are of particular relevance. Considerable attention is paid to outlined scientific problem in the research of foreign and domestic scientists. Econometric methods and models, namely regression analyzing methods, are the most commonly used in studies on migration process at the regional and national levels. This method is the basis for forecasting and for studying the impact of various objective factors on the dynamics and volumes of migration flows. Cluster network analysis agent models are also used. In summary, contemporary globalization processes have led to the emergence of a new pattern of historical migratory movements and flows, which has led to the emergence of new megatrends. Therefore, traditional methods of analyzing and modeling do not always allow for an adequate assessment and forecasting of these processes. Hence, the need to apply fuzzy logic methodology that would allow ranking countries according to their migration attractiveness in an uncertain environment. As noted above, it is useful to use a fuzzy inference engine in the form of a fuzzy set, which corresponds to the current values of the input variables using fuzzy knowledge based and fuzzy operations to assess migration processes. Fuzzy set theory is used specifically to solve problems in which the input data is unreliable and poorly formalized. Currently, fuzzy logic is used in the construction of neural networks, genetic algorithms, and the design of fuzzy systems. Fuzzy logic provides effective means of representation of uncertainty and inaccuracies of the real world, and the presence of mathematical means of representation of uncertainty of input information makes it possible to construct models corresponding to realities. The foundation of the fuzzy set theory of and fuzzy logic were laid in 1960s of 20th century by American scientist Lotfi Zadeh. Thanks to this research, a new scientific branch has appeared, which received the name fuzzy logic. His work laid the foundation for the approximate human reasoning modeling and gave impetus to the development of a new mathematical theory. Zadeh introduced the term fuzzy set, suggesting that the ownership function can accept any value within 0 to 1, not just the values of 0 or 1. Also, a series of operations on fuzzy sets has been defined, and a generalization of known methods of logical inference has been proposed by introducing the notion of linguistic variable. Fuzzy inference algorithms differ in the type of rules, logical operations, and differentiation methods. The most common modification to the fuzzy inference algorithm are the Mamdani algorithm. The main difference between the two is the way the values of the output variable in the rules are specified and the knowledge base. In Mamdani type system, the values of the input variables are given by fuzzy term. For tasks where explanation and justification are more important, Mamdani algorithm will have an advantage. The United Nations estimated the number of international migrants in 2019. It has reached 272 million people. Table 1 shows the structure and trends of global labor migration process from 1990 to 2019 by geographical area. Through the indexes of the average absolute increase, we generated the forecast for 2025 and 2030. There is an upward trend in international labor migration in North America, Europe, Latin America, Oceania, Central and South Asia, and South and North Africa, and a downward trend only in East and Southeast Asia. The 10 largest regional migration corridors in 2019 presented in tabular form 2, 5 of which represents nearly half of the world's migration flows, 124 million people. The Europe to Europe direction, which has 4.19 million people international migrants, is the largest regional migration corridor in the world. A large proportion of these migrants have moved between European Union countries. The direction Latin America and the Caribbean to North America is the second largest regional migration corridor in 2019, 26.6 million people. Why international migration is a global phenomenon? Only 20 countries received 2/3 of all international migrants in 2019. Almost half of all international migrants live in 10 countries only. The largest number of migrants is in the United States of America, with 51 million people migrants, or about 19% of the world's total number of migrants admitted in 2019. The most attractive countries for migration in 2019 were Germany, 13.1 million people, and Saudi Arabia, 13.1 million people, the Russian Federation, 12 million people, and the United Kingdom, 10 million people. Of the 20 most attractive countries for migration, 7 are in Europe, 4 in North Africa and Western Asia, 3 in Central and South Asia, 2 in East and Southeast Asia, and North America, and 1 each in Oceania and Sub-Saharan Africa. Thus, based on data on the volume and intensity of migration processes, it can be concluded that different regions and countries have different attractions for migrants. Determine the level of the migration attractiveness of country through the Mamdani fuzzy inference. The fuzzy inference simulation process was conducted in the MATLAB environment using the fuzzy logic toolbox. To construct the Mamdani fuzzy inference system, 4 input and 1 output linguistic variables in the fuzzy inference system were specified: GDP, gross domestic product per capita, IR, inflation rate, UR, unemployment rate, PAT, personal income tax, and EMA, evaluation of migration attractiveness, figure 1. These variables were selected from correlation and regression analysis as relevant to the migration attractiveness of countries. The phasing of the introduced linguistic variables and the definition of their terms have been carried out. The parameters of the membership function for these term sets are shown in Table 3, and the structure of the functions are shown in Figure 2. Based on the rules, a decision-making mechanism is created to predict the value of the performance variable. The peculiarity of this model is its flexibility. It can be filled with other rules, its content and quantity adjusted. On the basis of the input variable, statistics and evaluation of migration attractiveness was calculated. Figure 3 illustrates Mamdani fuzzy inference with the example of France. The results of the evaluation of migration attractiveness of selected countries are presented in Table 4. The analysis of the recipient countries' rating allows to draw conclusions that none of the studied countries has received the score ultra high. Italy, France, and the United Arab Emirates are among the top 3 most attractive countries with a high term. The middle-level attraction cluster is Saudi Arabia, the UK, Canada, the US, and Australia. Russia had the lowest rating. The results are largely consistent with the statistical analysis, but allow for a clearer definition of a country ranking. It should be noted that the proposed fuzzy model for the evaluating the migration attractiveness of recipient countries can be further developed and refined by introducing additional input variables. Thus, using the Mamdani fuzzy inference method, a system has been developed that allows to make a decision on the selection of the optimal country for labor migration based on the analysis of the most popular recipient countries in 2019. The parameters of the Mamdani model are interpreted quite easily, and the use of fuzzy logic makes it possible to model economic problems effectively in order to analyze the economic indicators of the migration attractiveness of countries. As a result of the implementation of this model, recipient countries are ranked as being the most attractive for migrant employees. Such countries as Italy, France, and the United Arab Emirates, which have medium and high levels of per capita GDP, low inflation, and a low level of tax, were in the first 3 positions. The model could be improved to reflect global trends in 2020 and the impact of the pandemic on global migration flows.